Go into the world and tell every man that you meet, there is a man on the cross.
A Catholic Take. What you need to know right now. A bold synthesis of inspiration and information. Keeping you up to date on the news and issues from a courageous Catholic perspective.
A Catholic Take with Joe McLean starts now.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McLean. Praise be to God. It is good to be on with you. Still live in Idaho, by the grace of God. We had a great time yesterday on the set of Fabiola, and I'll be maybe talking more about that in the after show. We have a lot to get to today. In fact, it came out yesterday that Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin is being charged, and they're going after the death penalty. We're having Dr. Scott Ventureyra on the team today. He has an article over at crisismagazine.com, Gender Ideology and Violence, Cultural Confusion, and the Spiritual Battle. We'll be linking to that for you in the show notes today. But there is a trend. In fact, he quotes Charlie Kirk after the Minneapolis shooting. You know, how many of these do you have to have before you admit the trend? That's the conversation with Scott Ventureyra, the really frightening link between gender ideology and violence. That's coming at 30 past the hour. Also on the team today is Katherine Bennett from Catholic Unscripted. You might remember that there was a massive rally in the United Kingdom over the weekend, Unite the Kingdom. And I want to know what's at stake in the UK and what are people really saying about this movement? And more importantly, you know, what will be done? What is good? What is bad? What is just politics? What is propaganda? Where does the truth lie? Katherine Bennett from Catholic Unscripted is going to join us at 14 past the hour to give us her insight into that. All of that, plus a lot more in the after show. And you can find the links to everything we talk about today at thestationofthecross.com/ACT. Let's get into it. We're going to pray, but do us a favor and share us with a friend. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen. Remember, O most gracious Virgin Mary, that never was it known that anyone who fled to thy protection, implored thy help, or sought thine intercession was left unaided. Inspired by this confidence, I fly unto thee, O Virgin of Virgins, my mother. To thee do I come, before thee I stand sinful and sorrowful. O Mother of the Word incarnate, despise not my petitions, but in thy mercy hear and answer me. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. And now your saint of the day.
Saint Hildegard of Bingen, pray for us. Hildegard was born at the end of the 11th century to a minor German noble family in the Rhineland, a region along the famed Rhine River. She suffered from poor health and received little education, but began to experience mystical visions at a very early age. When she was still a child, her parents, perceiving their daughter's vocation, sent her to a Benedictine abbey. After several years, though she resisted at first, Hildegard was chosen to succeed her late mentor as abbess. Hildegard's pious leadership led to many fervent vocations, and soon she was commanded to record what she received in her visions. These writings made their way to Pope Blessed Eugene III, who added his approval to that of many other bishops and saints. Hildegard continued to write works of prophecy, theology, music, natural science, and other subjects, until her death in the year of our Lord 1179. Though the Sibyl of the Rhine was never formally canonized, veneration thrived, and her name was eventually placed in the Martyrology. Pope Benedict XVI named her a Doctor of the Church. For more about this day and others in the Church's calendar, visit thestationofthecross.com/saints and seasons. Saint Hildegard of Bingen, pray for us.
And now your headline news. The New York Post reports George Zinn, who falsely claimed he shot Charlie Kirk, is hit with child porn charges. George Zinn, 71 years old, was charged with 4 counts of sexual exploitation of a minor Tuesday after investigators found more than 20 graphic photos of young children on his phone. Zinn is also facing a charge of obstruction of justice after he allegedly admitted to screaming that he shot Kirk in a bid to help the actual shooter get away. Just the News reports New York judge dismisses state terrorism charges against Mangione. A New York judge yesterday dismissed terrorism charges against Luigi Mangione in the state's case against him for allegedly killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, but kept the New York's second-degree murder charge against the defendant. And Catholic Vote reports 2 arrested after bomb found under Fox News vehicle. The FBI arrested 2 suspects this past weekend for an incendiary device that had been lit but failed to function as designed. It was found underneath a Fox News vehicle in Salt Lake City. And those are your headline news. The gospel today comes to us from Luke chapter 7, verses 31 through 35. Jesus said to the crowds, "To what shall I compare the people of this generation? What are they like? They are like children who sit in the marketplace and call to one another. We played the flute for you, but you did not dance. We sang a dirge, but you did not weep. For John the Baptist came neither eating food nor drinking wine, and you said he is possessed by a demon. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and you said, look, he is a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. But wisdom is vindicated by all her children." The Gospel of the Lord. Laus TV Christi. See, there's no winning here. You see, that's the point. There's no winning. You can't make them happy, no matter what you do. They're just never going to be happy. That's the problem. They want to reject what God has planned for them, no matter what. They're just going to reject it. That's the message here. But the Ignatius Catholic Study Bible says, like children. Jesus compares his generation to children who complain regardless of what gains are suggested by others. Both the joyousness of Jesus' ministry and the somberness of John's preaching were invitations to the kingdom, yet both were refused. It goes on, wisdom is justified. God's children recognize the wisdom announced by Jesus and John and welcome it as an invitation to enter into the kingdom. Saint Cyril of Alexandria said, "They take upon themselves to slander a man worthy of all admiration. They say that he who mortifies the law of sin which is in his members hath a devil." So they want the law no matter what. But we have to remember, why did they get the law to begin with? What was the original law? The original law was the 10 Commandments. How did they get to the 600 plus precepts and all the other stuff? Because of their own personal sin, because of the golden calf, because of the sins on the plains of Moab, because they kept breaking the covenant with God and getting the covenant curses. And then more and more regulation was being heaped upon their heads. It was punishment. It was all about punishment. And the Son of Man, the Messiah, Jesus Christ, came to fulfill all of the Old Testament covenants and to do away with this punishment and take them out of their, like, so to speak, the corner, put the kid in the corner, to take them out of the corner and bring them back to the original purpose, the firstborn, the priesthood of the firstborn, and of course the original law, which is the 10 Commandments. But they don't want to hear it. They don't want any part of it. They want to reject it. St. Augustine would say, "But his words, we have piped unto you, and ye have not danced," refer to the Lord himself, who by using meats and drinks as others did, represented the joy of his kingdom. Hence it follows that the Son of Man came eating and drinking, etc. St. Cyril of Alexandria would also say, "But where could they point out the Lord as gluttonous? For Christ is found everywhere repressing excess and leading men to temperance, but he associated with publicans and sinners. Hence they said against him, he is a friend of publicans and sinners, though he could in no wise fall into sin, but on the contrary, was to them the cause of salvation. For the sun is not polluted, though sending its rays over all the earth, and frequently falling upon unclean bodies. Neither will the Son of Righteousness be hurt by associating with the bad, but let no one attempt to place his own condition on a level with Christ's greatness, but let each, considering his own infirmity, avoid having dealing with such men. For evil communications corrupt good manners. It follows, and wisdom is justified by all her children." Quote St. Cyril. St. Augustine would say, Or when he says wisdom is justified of all her children, he shows that the children of wisdom understand that righteousness consists neither in abstaining from nor eating food, but in patiently enduring want. For not the use of such things, but the coveting after them must be blamed. Only let a man adapt himself to the kind of food of those whom he lives. St. Ambrose would say, he well says of all, for justice is reserved for all, that the faithful may be taken up, the unbelievers cast out. He goes on, the Son of Man, the Son of God, is wisdom by nature, not by growth, which is justified by baptism, when it is not rejected through obstinacy, but through righteousness is acknowledged the gift of God. Herein, then, is the justification of God. If he seems to transfer his gifts not to the unworthy and guilty, but to those who are, through baptism, holy and just. The Father has sent the Son to go out and to call all into the kingdom of God. And those that respond and are baptized are welcome, because now they have the garment for the wedding feast. But those that reject, they get what they want. They get put out in weeping in the gnashing of teeth, in the outer darkness. It's what they want. It's not what God the Father wants. He sent his Son. They just rejected him. That's all. Be back in 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere.
Unfortunately, Joe's audio has cut out yet again, so I'm going to have to be the one who introduces our wonderful guest. Returning to us is Katherine Bennett. Katherine, it's great to have you back on. Hopefully we can get Joe back on the show here, but it's great that you were with us, and I very much enjoyed, I haven't finished listening to it, but I very much enjoyed your appearance with Father McTague over on our iCatholic Radio YouTube channel.
Hi, it's great to be here. Thank you for inviting me back on. Yes, we had a wonderful couple of conversations, in fact, with Father McTague, and we're hoping, if diaries allow, that we'll be able to talk with him more frequently. He's very clear, very concise, speaks such truth with such clarity, and I think that's definitely something lacking today.
Yeah, absolutely. We're very happy to have had him on the team here at the Station of the Cross for so long, with his show, The Catholic Current, and also now these great shorter videos. Usually he does on the YouTube channel. Again, that's iCatholic Radio, youtube.com/@iCatholicRadio. But Father McTague did a longer form one with Katherine Bennett and Mark Lambert, who listeners of this show will know very well as well. And I think we may have Joe back. Joe, are you back? There he is.
Praise be to God. Did I black out again? Is that what I did?
You didn't black out. Your Opal blacked out. It was our connection. Well, but I did introduce Katherine, and it's great to have her here.
Thank you for your time, Katherine. Praise be to God. Take us through your perspective of the big rally in the UK over the weekend. It seemed like it was a massive crowd. Some reports even, hundreds of thousands. Was it 1 million people? How big was it?
I don't think we know the actual numbers. It certainly seems like it was perhaps the biggest ever rally, certainly the biggest since there was a rally about 20 years ago against the Iraq war, and that was the biggest until that point. There was talk of 3 million, talk of 1 million, talk of hundreds of thousands. However you look at it, it's a huge rally made up of a huge number of disaffected people who don't like the state of things over here in the UK.
So, exactly what does that mean? I think that's one of the questions that I have in my mind is, we see the flags and we see the pride, and I think those are good things. I think that's a good thing. But what does it actually mean in the hearts and minds of English citizens?
I don't know. It's interesting, isn't it? I don't know that I would leap to say it's a good thing. I think that what's happened is there's been a sense of disenfranchisement, brokenness, and ordinary British people, and often the poorest people, the ones who are struggling, the working class, they're struggling to make ends meet, are impacted to a greater extent by untrammeled immigration. And we have hotels full of immigrants who can't speak English, who are being paid for by the state, which means our taxes. So what you have is a class of people who are increasingly angered by the fact that they can't afford healthcare, they can't afford to get an appointment for their own families, yet they see immigrants coming in and which we're paying for. Now that's frustrating, and the problem is that's half a problem. Half a problem is frustration and disenfranchisement and fracturing and brokenness. Now, if that existed and we had leaders who understood that and wanted to try and address the problem, that might work, that might be some kind of solution. But instead we have all this frustration bubbling up, all this anger, and no outlet, because what we're being faced with by our so-called leaders is there's nothing to see here. Everything's fine. We love diversity. Diversity is our strength. And the reality is we can see diversity is not our strength. We can see that any kind of cultural cohesion that we once had has been eroded, and this is what will happen: is it bursts out in rallies like this one. And I'm not saying this rally was a bad thing. I think it's an understandable thing, and as it happens, it appears to be far more peaceful than something like the Notting Hill Carnival, which is a rally, which is a kind of a march to celebrate diversity, and there's always problems there. There are always deaths, murders, fights and everything. But again, we're propagandized by the media, which say, this is brilliant, Notting Hill Festival, which celebrates diversity, is wonderful. And this march to unite the UK is bigoted and far right and extremist, and we should have nothing to do with it. Well, the people aren't buying it. The reason I said I'm not sure it's a good thing, I'll come to if you want to know more about that.
Unfortunately, it looks like we lost Joe again. But yes, Katherine, if you could continue, because that would help cover for Joe to reconnect.
Yeah, that's fine. One thing I have reservations about. So on the one hand, this is a great thing. It's giving voice to frustrated people. It's part of a sense of people coming together in unity, and that's a good thing. However, I have reservations around the claiming Christianity as some kind of weapon rather than a real participation in the faith. We know that there were people there carrying flags and banners of Jesus and saying you need Jesus in your life. And when pressed, they said they're not Christian and they don't intend to go to church, but they're using an image of Jesus because they really love the story of the Crusades and how the Christians fought off the Muslims. Now, that worries me. That worries me about adopting Christianity for some other political reason. So I think on the one hand, it's a very good thing. On the other, I would be more encouraged by seeing that number of people in mass on Sunday, going to the sacraments, participating in their Christian life, and most of all, having babies. If they're really worried about immigration, I tell you what, not every Muslim is dropping bombs, but Muslims are coming in to the UK and having large families. And they are doing this very deliberately. And the UK are sitting complaining while contracepting, not having babies. Women are going out to work. And I think you've got to get with it and realise that you have a traditional role which you have to fulfil. It's no good just saying we're angry. Do something about it. Live a Christian life and raise Christian children.
Sorry about all the technical issues with the connection, but I really am glad you're able to have this conversation with us today. One of the questions I did have to kind of go back for a sec is to your government. Why do you think your representatives are doing what they're doing here? Are they tone deaf? Do they have an agenda? Why don't they represent more of the will of the people? As far as like, if this rally represents a significant portion of the will of the citizens of the United Kingdom, then shouldn't the government represent that? It seems like they're not. It seems like they're in contrast to that. But why?
Because it's just a sham. The idea of democracy being the voice of the people is laughable. Of course, it's not. We have the elites in power who have their own agendas, often trying to line their own pockets, in cahoots with globalist forces who only on the surface. It's only on the surface that they say they represent the will of the British people. There's really no evidence of that. And everything we see from Keir Starmer's Chagos Island deal, which totally neuters and emasculates the UK and makes us look ridiculous, he presents as necessary, for the law requires it, international law requires it. international law. Be concerned with your own country and your own people. And even that's a mask, because it's all ideological. So you have these people educated, propagandized, going into politics, and they are more concerned. It's a bit like Disney. You hear of Disney churning out films and they're failing at the box office. And instead of saying, oh, no, we're failing at the box office, our job is to make films that are popular and successful, they say, we don't care. We don't care if we fail. What's more important is the message. And that's what we've got in our politicians. We've got politicians who've come in, by and large, who have interest groups bunging them, some incentive. And that's what matters, not the people. They don't care about the people. Your church cares about you. Christ cares about you.
So then there's an opportunity here for the bishops then. If the bishops in the United Kingdom stepped up, they could lead. And are they, is the question.
No, not really. I think this is the perennial frustration. Mark and I discuss it often on our podcast, you'll know. And we really want to celebrate the bishops. We, more than anyone, want to say, yes, cheer for our bishops, cheer for the church, who are being that counter-cultural voice. But all too often we can't do it because there is just this assimilation with the way things are. It's managed decline. Occasionally we get the odd bishop coming out and standing up. We had 7 bishops at the March for Life, a visible presence, standing up for life in a culture of death. And that was brilliant. But again, that's 7. We're cheering 7. Why not 30? Why not all the bishops? We're not, and the same in education. We have this capitulation all the time because, we have to do this because this is the way the world is. Well, you're meant to change the world. You're not meant to just jump on board. And that's what we're not seeing.
Yeah. So, all right. What about the faithful Catholics in the United Kingdom? Where are they standing on this? Do they stand? Do they attend to this rally? Do they wave the flags? Are they as equally frustrated as so many others seem to be in the United Kingdom? And I guess where do they align?
I don't know. The problem is, I think, that we have a large number of nominal Catholics. We have a whole group, we have people who are born into the Catholic faith, but it doesn't really animate their life. I don't know. Some may be more motivated by political ends than heavenly ends. I don't really know. But what I do see is that It's actually in the quiet, mysterious little pockets that I see around me where there's the kind of growth that will actually affect change. We can scream and we can shout all we want and say we're frustrated, but the families you'll never see on podcasts, you'll never hear about, who I know who are having children, raising them, catechizing them, teaching them well, keeping them away from the propaganda and building communities quietly in the background. They're not necessarily waving the flag of St. George, though they're proud to be British and they love their country, but they are raising their rosary beads. They are going on the Corpus Christi marches. They are making their faith visible around and about in their workplaces and communities, unashamedly so. But most importantly, they're having babies. They are not contracepting. This is huge.
Praise be to God. Katherine Bennett, I'm sorry again about the technical connection problems, but I am very grateful for your time today. CatholicUnscripted.com is that website. CatholicUnscripted.com. Check out their podcast and their articles, too. They've got a lot of great articles over there. You can find it all at CatholicUnscripted.com. Katherine Bennett, God bless you. God love you. Thank you again for being on today.
Thank you.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McClain, and here are your headline news. The Hill reports Bondi clarifies hate speech comment after blowback. Attorney General Pam Bondi yesterday clarified remarks made on a podcast where she suggested hate speech could be prosecuted under the law, for which she received widespread criticism, primarily from conservatives. Quote, hate speech that crosses the line into threats of violence is not protected by the First Amendment. It's a crime, Bondi wrote, going on to say, for far too long, we've watched the radical left normalize threats, call for assassinations, and cheer on political violence. The era is over, she continued, citing the U.S. Code. And Catholic News Agency reports mass attendance is up at various colleges in wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination. In what some are calling the Charlie Kirk effect, people across the nation, including many college students who are not ordinarily churchgoers, have decided to go to church since the Kirk assassination. Matt Zerson, co-founder of Newman Ministry, a Catholic nonprofit that operates on about 250 campuses nationwide, told CNA that he has spoken to ministry leaders across the country, and they're seeing a 15% bump in attendance. Praise be to God. And Catholic Vote reports Israel launches ground assault into Gaza City. Israel launched a long-threatened ground offensive into Gaza City yesterday, declaring it will not stop until Hamas is defeated and hostages freed. The pastor of Gaza's Holy Family Catholic Church told the Pope that the parish continues to shelter about 450 people amid the violence. And those are your headline news. Praise be to God in all things. There's an article over at Crisis Magazine, and we're going to link to it in the show notes for you today. Gender Ideology and Violence, Cultural Confusion, and the Spiritual Battle by Dr. Scott Ventureyra. And this is it's something you got to read because you got to connect the dots here. He quotes Charlie Kirk in this article, who even says after the Minneapolis one, like how many of these have to happen before you connect the dots and see a frightening trend? And that is what we're talking about today. And he joins us by phone. Good morning to you, Dr. Scott Ventureyra. Thank you for your time.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
This is your article stood out to me in a number of ways. I think one of the biggest and where I want to start is sort of like that analogy of the frog in the boiling water. It's been bubbling and boiling now for a while. It seems like there's been a diabolical agenda of sorts to prepare us for a day when we would accept as normal that which is perverted and not normal. Would you say that's fair?
Absolutely. I mean, this would, with the cultural inklings of, certain movies going back to 1953, we had that movie, Glenn or Glenda. Probably it's not that well known. And it was, normalizing gender nonconformity. And then from there, everybody knows Psycho from 1960, which is based on the story of Ed Gein. They had this character, Norman Bates, who murders while impersonating his own mother. So he's trying to be his own mother. So it blurs the identity and gender and gives a chilling portrait of a psychological collapse, really. And after that, you had a movie called Homicidal in 1961. And there was even this movie, Dog Day Afternoon, with Al Pacino. I'm not sure if many people are familiar with it, but he robs a bank in order to fund sexual reassignment surgery for his partner. He wants to marry his gay partner.
Wow.
Then there was Dressed to Kill with Michael Caine, too, in 1980, who's a psychiatrist who dresses up like a woman and kills people. And, I mean, the most famous is obviously Silence of the Lambs, 1991.
Or what about television? We haven't even mentioned television. Bosom Buddies, anyone? I mean, there's lots of examples even in television over the years that have tried to blur those lines. In your article, you say the line is frightening. Speaking of a line from the Silence of the Lambs, it's frightening because it exposes a perennial truth. Evil begins when we refuse to acknowledge the true nature of things. Gender ideology does just this, denying the most basic truth of our humanity, that we are male and female. And as recent school shootings tragically show, such denial does not remain abstract. It can culminate in violence against the most innocent. And there's two things in that statement alone that stand out to me. Number one is we're denying the obvious. Like it's just obvious to everyone that this is not right, but yet we're pretending otherwise. That's really, really bizarre. Like that's surreal. How do we explain that? Number one. And number two, it's also, there's an attack here directly against these people are struggling with themselves and God in themselves and therefore against God directly. And it's a war with God directly. And it's just a tragedy that we see unfolding with spiritual eyes, but the world just can't see it. What would you say?
So the first thing to address the first point, I mean, once you start to deny reality, then you're going to get into a lot of trouble. So if you deny gravity and jump off a building, there's physical consequences to that. But if you start to deny truth and the foundation of the created order, if you start to deny first principles like identity, like A equals A, or the law of non-contradiction, or things in the natural order, things that we keep that keep reality coherent for us to understand it, at least. Denying this creates kind of like a vacuum where it's like feelings reign supreme. And so when feelings reign supreme, it's like I can dictate whatever I want to be. So then that gives a gateway to denying biological reality, is the gateway to biological denialism. And so once that begins, you deny Genesis 1:27, then there's this inward confusion, as you say. And, it starts to affect the human person in such a profound way that they're denying themselves from themselves, not just the created order. So now it's not that they're just against reality and logic and truth, but they're against themselves. And so this inward confusion creates, this ground to do these things that are so reprehensible because they're not in the right state of mind. And we should be actually assisting these people that are going through gender dysphoria. What they're doing now, the medical doctors, especially with children, is so reprehensible that I think, Charlie Kirk even said it's like these people should be arrested. I think Jordan Peterson's called for the same. I mean, these are criminal acts. These are crimes against humanity, what they're doing to children, and this confusion that it creates, and then it unleashes into other domains. And then you have shootings like you had in the Annunciation School. 2 innocent children died because of these consequences. So these denials of truth lead to real consequences in our physical reality. So we have to stay grounded in truth, and we have to teach children about first principles. So theology and philosophy do matter. Denying this is it's not just a fundamental error of logic, but it's also the consequences are so severe that we're only beginning to see the potential of this.
It's like we pick and choose what perverts that we want to prosecute. Like we give a pass to some and we prosecute the others. There's one of the stories in the headlines today is there was a gentleman who was arrested at the Charlie Kirk assassination. When he was assassinated, it was an older gentleman. He was one of the first men they detained because he shouted that he had shot him, apparently, allegedly. Turns out the guy had child porn on his phone. He's obviously a really demented person and is struggling with these severe, disgusting, and dark temptations. So, but we're going to prosecute him for that. But we're not going to prosecute those people who are struggling with gender dysphoria. Why? Why do we do that part? Why do we pick and choose? Why do we say some is bad, which is clearly bad? Clearly, we agree that is like child pornography is evil and bad, but not others. Like it should be even obvious to a secularist, I would argue. It should be obvious to an atheist, I would argue. It should be obvious to everyone. All policymakers should come to the same conclusion that this is bad for them. This is bad for society. We have to do something about it, but they just don't.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of pandering to certain groups. And, educators and politicians have been trying to normalize things like pedophilia. And that's the unfortunate reality. And so in certain instances, you get a free card to go and do what you want. And, you're going to be protected by the system. I mean, one of these double standards that I actually talked about, it's a related double standard. What happened in the case of Irina Zaruska? The media never mentioned a single thing. She was killed August 22nd. And Charlie Kirk, ironically, raised this issue. How come nobody's saying her name? Well, why? Because it's not convenient. And why is that? Because it's not related to, race in the way that they want it to be related. Why kneel 8 minutes and 46 seconds, for a man who was a criminal, who was intoxicated? And the details behind that are very complex. But it's like nothing is said about this girl until people on X start to raise issues and people on social media start to raise issues, aside from the media. So, politicians and educators and the media are very selective on what they're going to choose to focus on. Whatever panders to their voting base, and they don't care about truth. They don't care about any lives, to be honest with you. So that's the unfortunate state of affairs.
You also say in your article, across both mainstream and obscure cinema, the message has been clear. Distorted gender identity does not represent true liberation, but is a source of danger, ambiguity, and mental instability. Contrast this scenario with modern cinema, television, educational systems, government policy, and mainstream media, where now all too often transgender identity is depicted as empowering and heroic. So a lot has changed in how media portrays all this. It goes on. This narrative has become so pervasive that has led to a cultural contagion with unprecedented numbers of children and adolescents questioning their identities. Interesting about this, in my opinion, is that when it comes to media and how they sort of depict these issues in our society, what we're seeing now in media is they're like, for instance, whether it's the rape gangs in the UK or some of these violence that happen at the hands of immigrants on various cities and countries around the world. At the end of the day, some of these stories are being retold, refashioned from a political correctness perspective. There was a movie on, I think it was on Netflix or something, about a particular crime that was happening in the UK, and they depicted the bad guy as a young white male, but in reality, I think it was an African American or an African immigrant or something like that. So they're changing the narrative to fit their PC agenda. That seems especially duplicitous to me.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, at the beginning of the article, what's interesting is, like, Silence of the Lambs is a movie that I watched several times over the years. It's a fascinating movie for many reasons. But on one level, they were conditioning us not just to accept gender dysphoria, but to actually correlate it with nonviolence. There's a dialogue that ensues between Clarice Starling, who's the FBI detective trying to hunt down a serial killer, who's skinning women to create a bodysuit for himself because he was denied of the Johns Hopkins sexual reassignment surgery. So she states there's no correlation between transgenderism or transsexualism and violence. And then the psychiatrist, Dr. Lecter, says you're quite right. But at the same time, it's like the whole movie, what do we see? Somebody with gender dysphoria butchering women. So I think this deep contradiction, but they're already conditioning us for what's to come in the future. And what do we see? We see this bloodbath now. And ironically, tragically, how did Charlie Kirk die? Being asked that very question is chilling. I was writing that article by Irina Zarusa, and then this comes up, and he sends me a video. And then so I changed the whole context of the article to include him. But it's like what he was doing at that time is defending male versus female, male and female biology. But he's asked a question about mass murders that have transgenderism or gender dysphoria. And then the interlocutor said 5. And then he said, it's way too much. But anyways, and then he gets shot.
In your article, you say, whenever a shooter fits the progressive narrative, the white, male, conservative identity, it is magnified. When the shooter is transgender, it is minimalized and erased. I think that is very telling about the situation we're in. But you go on to say the transgender identified shooter remains statistical outliers, accounting for under 1% of mass incidents. Yet their presence in multiple high-profile school attacks, such as in the case of Hale in Nashville and most recently in Westman in Minneapolis, is startling for a group comprising only about 1% of U.S. adults. Given their tiny share of the population, transgender shooters should be non-existent. Yet their recurring role in these massacres expose the instability bred by gender ideology, a reality our culture refuses to confront. I mean, just on this one statistical issue, it's like it should be glaringly obvious. Like they are such a tiny fraction of the overall population, and yet they are holding the attention of the world in these headlines with these diabolical and disgusting, violent behaviors. And yet we still continue to pretend like it's supposed to be normal. Isn't that the case?
Well, absolutely. I mean, like that interlocutor who was questioning Charlie Kirk, he said 5. Oh, and that's quite a bit. But yeah, 5 is a lot for high-profile cases. And it goes even further, and I get into this a little bit into the article. There's other trans-identified killers. I mean, there was a case of, this is not too long ago, C.C. McDonald in 2012. This person was convicted of manslaughter after fatal altercation in Minnesota. They celebrated McDonald as a victim anyway. So there was that case. And then there was this other one in 2023, most recently, Amber McLaughlin. She was involved with, was the first openly transgender inmate executed in the U.S., illustrating how ideology, it just reaffirms what we're saying over and over again. There was also the case of Dana Rivers, who killed 3 people. There's Alex Ray Scott, a case involving child molestation and murder and decapitation even. I mean, it goes on. And these are, and if you extend beyond 2012, it's like you'll get plenty of more cases. But like I said, it's like this should be non-existent. There's such a tiny percentage of the population, and it keeps reoccurring. Yeah. And then it's like, what's the message that we're getting when the last conversation that Charlie Kirk had was about this?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I heard the question, what else is going on behind the scenes? But I mean, this is like a forefront issue, and I think this is one of the major reasons that Trump got elected.
We're also seeing, we were talking to the last guest, Katherine Bennett from Catholic Unscripted, about the UK rally. But I would argue Canada, United Kingdom, France, we're seeing it in many of the Western countries. There's this push to go back towards maybe have that swing back towards a conservative value. But I don't know, like we just question whether or not, well, like, what does that really mean in your mind? Conservative in the sense that you want money in your back pocket, blue sky, sunshine, and a good time, but you don't want anybody bothering you, but you don't want actual conservative values. You don't want to conserve marriage between a man and a woman. You don't want to conserve life in the womb. You don't want to conserve decency and morality and ethics in society. You just kind of want to do what you do and not be bothered by anybody. So it's like the West has a bit of a schizophrenic relationship with its own past and its own, value system right now.
Absolutely. So I think the majority of people just don't want to be bothered. They just want to live their lives. They want to, make money, buy houses. I mean, during our current financial situation in North America and throughout Europe, I mean, especially in North America, I mean, in Canada, I'm Canadian, it's very difficult for younger generations to buy houses now. It's almost virtually impossible. And with our current prime minister, I think last time we spoke, Trudeau was prime minister still, and now we have Mark Carney, who is like the globalist in chief, you could say. And it's just financial destruction that's happening in Canada. So I can understand. It's like people want to get ahead, which is normal, right? And this is what the case was up until, maybe 15 years ago. But a lot of people are choosing comfort over truth. And, the issue of life, family, transgenderism, these are all important issues, cultural issues that need to be based on, in the severest way. I mean, we have to face it intellectually, but also practically. So conservatives have to lead the way, especially Catholic conservatives have to lead the way. And I mean, I have another article coming out on the Catholic Exchange today, I believe, or tomorrow, which talks about Charlie Kirk, his whole ministry, or you can't even, not ministry, but his whole activism was based on defending life, family, and, biological reality. And also, like, he was competent scripturally as well. But, this is one of the apparent reasons he was assassinated anyways, because his voice was too powerful.
In your article, we're going to run out of time here very quickly, but in your article, you talk about Father Calderon, an exorcist, a Capuchin exorcist, and you say in his work as an exorcist, Calderon has encountered cases where gender dysphoria vanished after deliverance. Demons he explained, often exploit sexuality, including dysphoria, vexations, and obsessions. Sexuality is a favorite weapon because it reflects the image of God in both males and females. Such a distortion is a direct affront to God himself. I got to say, Dr. Scott Ventureyra, this should be, fairly obvious, kind of reoccurring theme here. It should be fairly obvious. Yeah. So why don't the bishops of the church, why don't they step up and say, nope, we're going to perform exorcisms in our diocese. We're going to bless our diocese. We're going to call for the conversion of all people. I mean, call people to repentance. But it's like they too kind of want to just let things settle and be friendly and nice and, not ruffle any feathers. They just kind of want to go along to get along.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that. I did have a conversation with one of the priests here in Ottawa, and he spent about several minutes blaming Trump for the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And, if you mention anything about, if he saw my article, the one we were discussing today, he'd probably be appalled, or no, he'd probably dismiss it, thinking this is some kind of hysteria, and these are things that maybe 4 centuries ago we had to deal with, and so now it's not relevant. And there's a lot of priests and higher ups that are in denial of this deep evil connection between the desecration of the image and likeness of God. This is where Satan proliferates. This is where he's at his best. And you can see it with the whole, sexual revolution, and now with the gender ideology crisis that extends into other things as well. But especially with the transgenderism, this is the breeding ground for demonic possession and satanic attacks. It leads to all kinds of things. And, if you look at even the shooter's diary, he mentions that Satan's giving him instructions to kill when and how. And in that image, in the article, you see what is he talking to a demon in the mirror, his own sketch.
Yeah.
Who informed them, kill these innocent children, not Musk and Trump, but innocent children. And really sad state of affairs.
As St. Paul said, we're dealing with the powers and the principalities. We are dealing with the spiritual aspect here. And there's only one organization that is equipped and given the authority and the power and the tools necessary to combat that successfully. And that is the one Holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. And the world will never change until we decide, the bishops decide, the Pope leading the way, and all the faithful along with, to get off the bench and to do something about it by conquering the world through evangelization. Dr. Scott Ventureyra, thank you for your time. God love you. God bless you. We'll see you tomorrow.
And we're back. Welcome to the after show, everyone.
Are we really back, or have we ever?
Hey, when you dropped out and then came back on, it fixed your audio. It actually reconnected.
I like the way you said that. When you dropped out, yeah. Let's just be honest. When you kicked me off the second time,
it's
you're saying my audio got better.
You were in denial that the wrong microphone was connected, and we were hearing all this staticky fuzz from your onboard mic. Then it reconnected your Shure, and it sounded better, and it sounded great. It was great.
I wish it was that simple. It would have been so easy to fix if it was just the wrong microphone. But unfortunately, it's more complicated because now we don't know exactly what the problems are.
I'm not sure how it wasn't connected at first, and then it was, and then I don't know. But your audio sounds way better now than it did at the start of the show, and I'm assuming it's a microphone thing. So
it's this. I don't know. I think a combination of things. It might be the internet I hear. It's also might be this Vocaster that I had to purchase to try to make life easier. That was the goal, was to make life easier in order to have multiple guests when I'm on the road. Mm-hmm. And it's like a little audio interface made by Focusrite, which should work just fine. But clearly, I think we're having some issues there. It could be the laptop itself. Who knows? I don't know. But what's bizarre is why does the connection drop out when at the most critical time? You're going to somebody or whatever, then all of a sudden it's it all crashes. It's what? It's never at a good time. It's always at a super inconvenient time. But anyway, that's the life. That's the job. Good morning, everybody. Damon. Good morning, Paul. Good morning, JP. The other thing is I tried to have the, I'm going to drop my microphone. I tried to have one of the chat box. So I tried to keep YouTube chat box open, but that might've been a problem too. So I had to cancel that. So now I can't see anything other than Telegram again this morning. Mm-hmm. Paul, good morning. JP, good morning. Praise be to God. Mike K., our friend from sunny Virginia. Praise be to Jesus. Good to have you back. Good morning to you, Jane. Rebecca, good morning. Praise be to God. Guess what day it is? It's Tech Challenge Day here at ACT. Again, Loki, good morning to you. Paul, our friend from Buffalo, good morning to you. Loki says, Joe, please ask Katherine to what was driver for really? What? I didn't ask her this question, but I don't understand it either. To what was driver for rally? To what was, I don't know. What's the question? I'm not sure I understand. I've heard it was mostly due to bad economic. Oh, so what's driving the rally? I think she basically talked about it. I think people are fed up. They're frustrated with the immigration crisis, the dual, what they perceive as the dual, they treat the immigrant criminals one way and they treat the UK, citizens another way. It's like this dual approach towards justice. I think they're fed up with that. I think they're just fed up with their government, basically doing whatever the government wants despite the people's intentions or wants. I think that's part of the problem. T-Storm, good morning to you. Praise be to God. Jen Nugent, good morning. Liz Finch, good morning to you. Praise be to Jesus. Glad you guys are on the team today. Damon, again, Mary. Good morning, Mary. Thanks for being here. You are amazing. Praise be to God. I'm just scrolling through. Michelle, good morning to you. Sci-Fi, good morning. If you fix your problem, you won't know what your problem is. I want to fix the problem, but I'm not even sure exactly what the problem is to be able to fix it. Is it equipment? Is it internet? Is it both? Probably. Who knows? I don't know. I should be shot, though. Let's just have me shot after the show, Jake. Let's write that down. Just take a note. Have me shot.
Don't you have another day of shooting ahead of you?
I do. Today, as a matter of fact.
They're going to take you out to the dunes of Idaho and shoot you.
We were on, that was yesterday.
Okay.
We were on the dunes of Idaho. Epic, massive dunes.
I was looking at that. I was like, is this Arrakis? Where's Joe?
I was like, what's the desert? Is it Hoth? What's the
Tatooine?
Tatooine. It was like being on Tatooine. It was crazy. But these things are like mountains, and there's it's just everybody goes out there and rides their four-wheelers out there. So it was like 1,000 people out there on these four-wheelers going up and down these mountains of sand. It's just insane how big these things are, the epic, the scope of them. And we were out there all day long. We had a great time actually running on these four-wheelers. We had to rent these side-by-sides to get everybody and all the equipment out to the location, and then, filming out there, and then trying to avoid the sound of these other people out there riding and having a good time. Praise be to God, and get the takes in all day. So it was good. It was really, really good. It was a nice, a fun experience to be on a movie set. Today, we're going to go to a different location. Actually, we're going to drive, I think, a few hours, maybe 2.5 hours or something, to a cave. And this will be the location for the cave, the cell, the hermitage of St. Hilarion. By the way, if you've never heard of St. Hilarion or looked into St. Hilarion, I would encourage you to do so. St. Jerome wrote his biography. He was a mystic. He was a hermit. He was a young, even as a young man, he was considered very holy. Mm-hmm. And many people consider him the successor of St. Anthony of the Desert. And many miracles were attributed to his intercession, of course. He was from Gaza. He founded monasteries in Gaza, but he wanted to leave Gaza because he had a mystical vision of the future of his people suffering, and he did not want to witness their suffering. So he wanted to leave, and the people didn't want him to leave. They wanted to keep their mystic. They wanted to it's tragic, but there's parallels to St. Padre Pio in his last day. They wanted to, they like their little dog and pony show. They like hey, we got tourists here, man. It's showtime. You get out there, Padre. Okay. You got to get out there and say the mass for the peoples, and he didn't even want to say mass, the last mass. He didn't want to say it. He knew it was his day, and they under obedience, he went, of course, but there's a book about that. Actually, I would encourage everybody to check out the last mass of St. Padre Pio. But there's similarities there. So the people did not want St. Hilarion to leave. And so he said, okay, fine, then I just won't eat. and he stopped eating for like a week or something like that. And then he was starving himself to death. And they're like, okay, fine, you can go. And then like, they let him eat, again. So then he left and he ended up going to Cyprus. Cyprus is the island that has a couple of big connotations. You might remember Barnabas, who went on mission with St. Paul. Barnabas was from Cyprus, and the two of them together went through Cyprus. And in the book of Acts, you can see their journey through Cyprus before they cross over into Turkey, and they cross the Taurus Mountains, and they get split up there. Remember, Mark was a part of that as well, and so there's a big falling out there. But so they went through Cyprus together. So Barnabas is from Cyprus. And then, of course, you might also remember that prior to 1571, prior to the Battle of Lepanto in October, there was the invasion of Cyprus by the Ottoman Turks, and how they slaughtered the Venetian knights there. And you might remember the war cry at the Battle of Lepanto of Bragadino. Well, Bragadino was the Venetian commander that they skinned alive, and they used his skin like a windsock on the mast of the Ottoman Turks' ships. So when they attacked, when the Holy League attacked, they would cry Bragadino, so Famagusta, and they would yell out Bragadino because in fact the lead ship in the assault on the Ottoman Turks at the Battle of Lepanto was led by the brothers of Bragadino from the Venetians. So Cyprus is the island where St. Hilarion will go and set up another hermitage and a cave, and he will eventually die there. But so today we're going to find out, we have a location about 2.5 hours from here where we're going to use as our set for the hermitage, the cell, the cave of St. Hilarion. And that is going to be my big, lines today. So I have to remember all my lines today and hit all my marks, which I think there's a good reason why I never became an actor. I think I'm finding out the hard way through this process why that is, but that's okay. I'm very.
I always used to want to be a filmmaker until I started making movies in college, and then I was like, I'm done with this.
It's hard.
I'm done with this.
It's so hard. It's like it is. I mean, I felt really. I had sympathy for Mary and Faustina yesterday, who had to deal with so many like elements, like the clouds coming and going. So changing the light, between takes, which means you have continuity issues. You had footprints in the sand, and you had the sound of 4x4s everywhere. It's just like it's always something. So these ladies were persevering through it all, and the actors were being very patient. Praise be to God. And all the rest. But it was still a pretty amazing experience. I was very happy to do it. But at any rate, can you give us some shout outs? I can't see. I'm afraid to put on YouTube, or else it might crash everything. Who knows?
It might indeed. Rumble, we've got James16897. Nick the Mike is over there. KZ2, Silent Fire 88. Robert DeBruce, good morning to you all. Tradish Mom is over there. Good morning. And she says, I just read up on Dog Day Afternoon. It's based on a true story. A guy tried to rob a bank in 1972 to pay for his gay lover's reassignment surgery. A priest agreed to perform a blessing for them. He was later defrocked. Imagine that.
I couldn't see that coming. What do you mean?
And Guaguenza61 is over there. Good morning. No one on it.
Good morning.
As usual. Let's see. Was that Timpani? Was that 2001: A Space Odyssey in the background there? What happened?
What happened?
I just heard dum, dum, dum. It sounded like 2001: A Space Odyssey in the background there.
Well, hopefully it's not ominous. Hopefully it's not foreshadowing of something bad to come. That would be bad. It's Darth Vader. He heard I was on Tatooine. He's coming for me.
Don Paddock on Facebook. Good morning to you. Angelique, Junior Barra, Patty,
morning.
Nicole.
Praise
good morning
be
to
to
you
God.
all. Thanks for tuning in. YouTube was hopping this morning. I'm not going to get everyone because it won't let me scroll all the way up to the top. But I see Janice and Colleen in cigar mode, of course. Good to see you on the Avoiding Babylon stream last night. It was fun hanging out in the chats there. Greg McElhaney is here. Let's see. Alberto chiming in. Helen Grace. Alberto, were you at the march? Did you go to the Unite the Kingdom rally or whatever it was? Let us know. Or if you were nearby or anything like that. I'm not sure where in England you're from. I forget. Helen Grace is here. Blaine. William Jones. Good morning to you all. Ann Claffey. Ann says, I've only seen 2 horror movies at the cinema in my life. I was scared so much that I kept the light on all night for a week. I've seen a couple movies that were that scary, for sure.
Yeah.
Usually it's the ones that are too real. You know, when they're goofy and over the top, it's like, who cares? But when they could be real, those are the ones that spook me.
Like The Shining.
A really spooky movie, Zodiac.
Zodiac. Oh,
Zodiac
sure. Yeah.
was a great. Yeah. There's not much. There's like a couple of violent attacks depicted, but like for the most part, there's not a lot of horror. It's just really, really creepy and scary because it's a true story.
Reality is scary.
Reality is scary. Yeah. Let's see. Christina OFS is there. Beverly Hamilton. Good morning. Colleen. Phoebe Diggs. Phoebe Diggs says we should be demanding with charity that the consecration be done. Susie Nastelli. Good morning to you. A lot of our down under folks.
Anyone morning.
Else? John Paul Sandoval. Good morning. Deborah, is it Virtus? I'm going to guess it's pronounced Virtus. Good morning, Deborah. Anyone else? A lot of the usual suspects here. Dave SJU 93. Good morning. He thought you were ditching the after show.
I'm trying not to. Are
we still playing bingo?
Like I was ditching the show. What do you mean?
Should I be sharing the bingo cards?
Yeah, we're still trying to play Blackout. Yeah. Apparently, we're not doing a good job because nobody's called Blackout yet.
I should.
So I'm not sure what's missing.
I'll share the links
needs to still be discussed. But in case anybody is still needing some squares filled, let me know. What time is Joe's bedtime? It's right now, Thomas. Yeah. I got it. I got the chat on my phone here. Mm-hmm. It's right now, actually. Like last night, we got back here probably. I guess it was like 7:00 or something around that time. So it was a long day. And then I had some work to do. And then I got a little bit of work done. And then I took a shower and I hit the rack. I was so tired last night because I just didn't get a lot of sleep the last couple of days. So I was able to get to bed, praise be to God, at a more decent time and get some rest, which was great. But unfortunately, and I am sorry about all the tech problems. I really don't like all those tech issues happening. It sort of takes away from our program, but I wish I had it all figured out, and I don't. I'm sitting here looking at it going, golly, what could I do to make sure that doesn't happen again? And I really don't know, to be honest with you. I rebooted the computer and everything today just to be sure, but I'm on a laptop and there's always that, you never know. And is it the browser interface that's a problem? Is it this device that's new? Who knows? I don't know. If I had it all figured out, I'd probably be Elon Musk or something. Who knows? Douglas, good morning to you.
Yeah, he says, thank you for the TM book.
Oh, you got it. Praise be to God. Mm-hmm. Liz Finch, did you ever get I need to check you. What's going on? How come Liz didn't? She was the first winner. And as of, I think it was yesterday, she said she hadn't gotten her book yet. I still haven't. I got to check on the tracking. I'm sorry, Liz, if you haven't gotten it. Eric Powell, good morning. John Paul, good morning to you. Joey Carter, hit the rack. That's Joe's Marine kicking in right there. You are Navy. I'm so sorry, Joey. My deepest condolences to you. But I suppose somebody's got to be in the Navy, right? I mean, you got to give the Marines a ride here and there.
Aren't they basically the same thing?
No. My grandfather, my mom's dad was in the Navy, by the way. I have I don't have it. I think my mom has it, or my sister has a picture of him crossing the equator. I think it was his first equator crossing. It's from a long time ago. He was World War II era, so that was pretty cool. And I remember him telling me that they would do all this hazing. If it was your first equator crossing, they would do this hazing ritual. I forget what they called it, but there was a name for it, or somebody dressed up like Neptune or something that with the fork. And
in the British Navy, it was Badger Bag climbs aboard. Yeah, you got to be shaved.
He said they would they would fill like one of the the hallways or whatever. With shoes. Everybody throw their shoes in the hallway. And if it was your first time, you had to go and shine all those shoes, or something. Yeah. Like they had a whole thing, of hazing that they did.
Yep.
But no, Marine Corps, 1775, Tun Tavern. Marine Corps was born in a bar in Philadelphia, basically. And yeah, exactly. It makes sense that the Marines were born from drunks. I'm just saying out loud. That's the way that is. But yeah. I've never been to Tun Tavern, actually. It is, I've been to Philadelphia, driven sort of through it, but I've never stopped in Philadelphia. I would like I hate cities, especially, jam-packed northeastern cities, but I do want to go. I do want to go see some of those, American Revolutionary era sites. I think that would be pretty cool. If you've also, it's like going to Boston. If you've never walked the Freedom Trail in Boston, you got to do it at least once because it's so historical. I just don't like being in downtown Boston. It's just such a hassle. But to get in there, find parking and all that other junk.
I hate driving in Boston. I've driven up. Yeah. I've told the story of driving a box truck through Boston. That was awful.
I've done that.
Absolutely awful.
I've actually done that.
Yeah.
Construction trucks.
Like, it's bad enough you've got a little car that's maneuverable. Driving a box truck through there was awful.
100%. It is terrible. I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah.
But go be a tourist, a historical tourist. I think, especially like in places like Boston or Philadelphia, you're going to find these like really old cemeteries too. And those are amazing. Read the headstones on them. They go back, to the colonial days. It's really pretty special, actually.
The traditional Thomas says
someday.
Joe was in Philadelphia covering the signing of the Declaration. He's being modest.
I was there. Ben Franklin. He's not the virtuous man. I'm telling you, and smelly too. By the way, you don't want to hang out with that dude. I know I'm old. Stop it. The Cable Mechanics is chiming in late as one of the usual suspects. Well, good morning to you, Sean Marie. Good morning. Thanks for hanging out. Independence Hall, Liberty Bell. Exactly. I want to go see those things. I want to go find all the same clues. Remember that documentary film? What was the documentary film starring Nick Cage? What was it? Book of Secrets? No, that was the second one. It's the follow-up one. Yeah, I want to go find all the same Freemason secrets hidden in plain sight there in the Liberty Bell. That'd be amazing. You should try driving in Naples, Italy. No, why would you do that, Douglas? Why would anybody want to drive in Naples? Or anywhere in Italy? Have you seen Italy? It's an insane place. They don't drive like normal human beings. To them, it's like Tetris. They just squeeze vehicles into tight spaces and hope for the best. It's absolutely insane how they drive there. I would never do it. I mean, every time I got into a cab in Rome, I thought I was going to die. Forget it. Dave's June 93, welcome back. Says half my grade school field trips were to Independence Hall and the Betsy Ross House. That's cool. See, I grew up in San Antonio, so all of our field trips were like to the Alamo or to the Missions, which was neat. I mean, I love the historical aspect to it, but and it does obviously predate, like Independence Hall and Boston and all that other stuff, just saying that it's older, and obviously more interesting. But besides that, National Treasure. Thank you, Joey Carter. Email for bingo card. Cigar Mode. Did you call bingo? Did Cigar Mode call bingo? The Trad Catholic, you mean Joe as Emperor?
Oh, wait a second. Yvonne says I sent email to bingo. I've got Yvonne here. Let's see. Uh-oh.
Did somebody call bingo?
I think Yvonne called bingo. I've got her email. Her email is the only one sitting in the inbox here.
Yvonne's called bingo. Is it blackout?
Yvonne's claiming blackout bingo. Let's see. And by the way, the email for anyone in the future, the email for the bingo is in the description of the video. It's in the description of every live stream. Email address is in there. But okay, let's see what Yvonne's got the card, and she has Joe's voice changer.
That
must have been last week. I think that was last week. Yeah,
or is it right now? My voice is different right now.
Joe's voice changer. Joe hates Gen Z.
Do I? When did I ever say that?
I'm going left to right. I'm going left to right across.
Well, hold on. When did I say I hate Gen Z?
Well, you don't have to say it in so many words. It's just if
that's relative, then
you have to feel the enmity.
I have to say the words.
Oozing through the screen. Joe's voice changer. Joe hates Gen Z. Joe's sound effects. So that's 3 in a row there. Those are all impromptu Bible study.
When did I have an impromptu Bible study?
You probably went in some kind of biblical rant. Joe is right / I agree with Joe.
Well, that's a given.
Row 2. If I had George Soros money, Polichicho.
When did I say Polichicho?
Let that sink in.
Let that sink in.
Yep. I told everyone that's why you're in a kitchen this week.
Because I'm sinking in.
You're giving a good example. You let that sink in. You're being a good example. Joe sings and history rant.
Sing?
You've sung a couple times in the last couple weeks. So
the history.
I mean, we're not going to remember any of these because this is going back to 9/2 is when this game started. So
9/2.
Yeah,
like
September 2nd. It's been 2 weeks.
Forever ago.
Been 2 full weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my.
So history rant. Row 3. Jake Popesplains. Bavaria.
Thank you, Jane.
Once free,
Jane,
always free. That's the.
I think Jane's got something here. Jane's like, I'm not so sure about this. Jane says, Joe hating on Gen Z. I missed that one. So I would agree, Jane. I don't know that I've ever hated on Gen Z. Not sure. I need a timestamp.
Not all these boxes have to be verbatim.
Mm-hmm. So it's
that one's not in quotation marks the way that let that sink in is in quotation marks. So
I see.
Did
I stab my heart? I don't know that I ever stabbed my heart. Did I stab my heart? I'm not sure.
Well, that's not on this. That's not on this one.
Okay, so she didn't call that one.
Row 3, Jake Popesplains, Bavaria, our free space, once free, always free. Sugar, new slang perplexes Joe.
It's true.
Row 4, quote, documentary film, unquote. You just said that one today. Number 2, so this is still in row 4, excuse me. Terrible pun, quote, get off my lawn, unquote. Joe wants to move, and Poland.
I haven't talked about moving in a while now. Come on now. And Poland. I like that. And Poland.
Row 5. New Hampshire. Conspiracy theories. Jake is a liturgy nerd. War betwixt the states. And coffee.
Okay. And coffee.
Yep.
All right. Well, praise be to God to that.
There we go.
I have had coffee today, low key. I'm drinking coffee. Praise be to God. We have good coffee here. All right. Well, then I guess Yvonne, congratulations. You are the
everyone has to stop playing bingo until I create a new game.
So should we start another game next week? I don't know.
Yeah,
I got to get Yvonne's address so that I can
Joe's running
mail
out of
her
prizes. He needs to wait until his enormous paycheck for this film comes in.
Oh, yeah. Well, we sent 3 prizes out so far. So Yvonne will be the 4th winner and prize recipient of Ask a Priest. No.
Joe's going to send out
ACT bingo.
Joe's going to send you a box of coffee. Not beans, like an actual like coffee, just poured into a box. That's what he's going to send out.
Poured into a box. Okay, what's wrong with coffee in a box? No, stop it. They pack heaters in them or something like that and mail them straight to your house. It's fresh.
That sounds great.
Somebody should invent that, actually. That would be probably genius business right there. I could use some more coffee today. That reminds
me of Norm Macdonald at his podcast. He had one of his sponsors was Dollar Shave Club, I think. And he just kept going off about, don't you want high quality razors sent to your door? You want a razor blade sent to your door? Like making fun of it. It's a sponsor, and he's like making fun of this product.
That's good Norm Macdonald stuff right there. Like that's genius.
Don't you want razors sent to your door?
I'm going to make fun of them, and they're going to pay me.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be great.
You haven't heard of the revolution? It's revolutionizing the way people grill. It's called the man grate.
Jane's got date and timestamps. Exactly. That's what we need on some of these things. Like prove to me when I lambasted Gen Z just because they're lazy and entitled. Receipts. Besides that, though, when did I hate on Gen Z? Mm-hmm. Just because they're ruining the world around us does not mean that I hate on Gen Z. Just because all is lost and
where's traditional?
It's all their fault. Yeah. T-Storm says, my daughter is in Italy and she went to Naples and she said they drove really, really crazy there. Yeah, they're insane people in Italy. You don't want to drive there. You really, really don't. Take the train. Just be a tourist and stay out of cars and like Vespas because you'll die. You don't want that. It's not good. But you know what? I do definitely want to go to, I've never been down to Naples. I've never been to southern Italy. I definitely want to go. I want to go to Pompeii in particular. I want to spend some time hanging out there because that is one of the most fascinating places. You know, Pompeii wasn't lava that killed those people and preserved them. It was ash. And so it was filled with this ash, this hot ash that and rock coming from the burst, not lava, that preserved them almost immediately and preserved them for all time. But because basically became a mound that, grass grew on. And then it wasn't until they started excavating it, I think in the 1800s, that they discovered what had been hidden under that mound. Whereas all the other towns, surrounding that, they might have been hit by lava or whatever else, and they're gone. You don't have the preservation as you do in Pompeii. It would be utterly fascinating to go there and see it firsthand. So that's definitely on my bucket list, but I'm not going to drive there. I'm just going to take a train or a cab or something else. Do that typical tourist thing. But I tell you what, I was telling my kids the other day, like they're going to have to be more situationally aware than even I've had to be in my life and their generation. I'm just thinking about that young woman on that light rail train in Charlotte that got murdered. Like, she was just trying to mind her own business. But it's like you can't just be on a public transportation like that and mind your own business. You need to be publicly aware, situationally aware of what's going on around you, especially if you're going to be in places like New York City or Boston or I guess even Charlotte. Houston, Texas. It doesn't really matter. These, but we should cities, be able to be. You should be safe, but you're not, and you have to. Your safety needs to be, your priority, even if it's not the priority of your community.
Well, this just shows you, like, this is someone who's a refugee from a war. And she came to America hoping to find peace and safety.
Yeah.
And she was stabbed 100%. By one of our fellow citizens whose vote would count just as much as yours.
Right.
Like, that's the America we live in.
That's America. Right there.
That's America.
But it's also true in other. It's true in the UK. It's true in a lot of Western places.
Yeah, but I guess the point is that people flee to the West thinking it's the first world, and it's not. We live in we basically live in a third world country that still has. Well,
there was a guy beheaded in Dallas. There was a guy beheaded in Dallas last weekend.
Yeah,
I didn't even talk about that. I mean, like that's insane. Mm-hmm. That's where we live in these times of ours. So we have to be situationally aware of what's going on around us, who's around us.
Yeah.
And
but the thing is, the point is that
talk to my kids about it, about being situationally aware,
yes,
about being careful about who their peer groups are, and the people they allow in their lives. You have to be discerning. You just have to be.
Yes. But the point is that the whole point of having a government is that it, keeps things clean and safe so that you don't have to worry about this. But we don't live in the, and I'm not saying that you're wrong. The point is that we shouldn't have to live like that, but we do now. And
I know, but you do.
What are our chances of ever getting back to not living like this anymore? I'm not sure they're very likely in the
not at all. I don't believe
future.
They are likely. Yeah. I mean, outside of a mass conversion experience and being a theocracy, I just don't see it. I just don't see it at all. Mm-hmm. I just don't see our government taking the responsibility that is supposed to be entrusted to them and taking it sincerely. Just don't see it. So we're going to have to care for ourselves and care for our own safety. We're going to have to be very cautious. And Rebecca says her husband won't let her ride on public transportation. I don't blame him.
Yeah.
That's what I told my kids. I said, I'd prefer you not to be on these, public transportation. And like even in Italy, like for example, going back to Italy, because I've been there a number of times now, but public transportation's infamous, maybe not for extreme violence as much as like just being mugged, like being robbed, being pickpocketed. I mean, get on the train there and you're very likely to encounter gypsies. They're going to come and try to steal your stuff. Now, they're not trying to harm you physically, but they are trying to steal your stuff. They can take your passport, your wallet, your credit cards, or whatever. And then your life is miserable. It's just trying to deal with all of that, and it's just like, even at that level, it's like, no, I'm sorry. We should be able to get on a train, get where we got to go without having to worry about being assaulted in any way, shape, or form, violent or otherwise. Mm-hmm. But that's not the world we live in.
Well, she probably thought she was safer on there than walking home, right?
I agreed.
Isn't that, that's what's it's heartbreaking.
And she was just minding her own business.
Yeah.
She really, she was just sitting there doing of something completely innocent, and she was an absolute victim in this situation. But if I were her dad, it just breaks the heart, because I'm like, you should not be sitting in that chair. If you're going to be on that train, you don't sit in that chair. Where do you sit? You sit with your back against the wall and nobody's behind you, and you see everybody out in front of you, and you got the door right here. I mean, like, you walk in there and you start thinking strategically. And I think this is what difference between a man and a woman, I think, often, because men think like this, and I've said this before, I'll say it again a bunch of times, but when I go to church, I sit at the aisle. I sit on the outside of the aisle. Why do I sit there? Because if there is some crazy person that walks in that room, I need to stand up and confront them as fast as possible. I can't be stepping over people to get to them. It's just not, because it's going to be chaos as fast as possible. So you need to be able to react as fast as possible. Now, in our parish, we have door guards. We have a armed police officer that is with us for our masses. Praise be to God on Sundays. But in general, men think like this. Where are the doors? Okay. And, see that person over there? Why does that raise a red flag for me? There's something about that individual that's got my attention and my eyes on that person. Why is that? Because we're leaders, we're protectors, we're providers. It's built into our nature to protect and to care for and to be on the alert. It's just part of who we are.
Built into our nature to think we're Jason Bourne.
100%. I am Jason Bourne. Are you kidding me? Have you ever seen me and Jason Bourne in the same room at the same time? No, never. Okay. So prove to me that I'm not Jason Bourne.
Napoleon Solo says, yeah, I don't leave the house. There you go. There's an answer.
Yeah. No, that's not the answer either. Like, we can't, unless you're Hilarion, you can't be a hermit, but, but like, I say this too, like in downtown Houston, Texas, we used to go to a Annunciation Catholic Church downtown. Right across the street, and literally across the street, is the ballpark where the world famous Houston Astros play ball. Mm-hmm. And then, just down from that is where the Bread and Loaves soup kitchen is that feeds the homeless. And there's a homeless shelter over there. And there's like a bridge overpass where the highway is. And there's a massive community of homeless, people who have drug addiction issues and all kinds of psychotic problems. And it's a hot mess over there. Well, developers have come down, over the last couple of decades, and they have tried to revamp that entire area. So what did they do? They built expensive condos over there. They built a huge stadium for soccer over there. But there's venues, there's restaurants and all of that. But guess what's still there? All of that homeless encampment is all still there. And then what do I see when I used to go to this parish and take my family there and we'd have all these encounters with homeless people, and they were getting more and more aggressive in their approach to you and whatever. So it became nerve wracking. But, you drive over there and you see, next to these very expensive condos and high rises, you see all these young ladies straight out of college, got their first job downtown Houston, and they're living close to their job, jogging or whatever. And you're like, who's your dad? Like, are you kidding me? You're putting your life at risk here for what exactly? Like, this is insane. Like, you shouldn't be here. Like, this is dangerous. This environment is dangerous. You're going to pretend like it's normal. It's okay. It's some sort of, quality living because you have a nice condo and they put it in a park or something like that. But you're surrounded by incredible danger, and you need to be aware of that. You need to be acting accordingly. And every time I saw some of these young ladies out just sort of on their own, doing their own thing, I'm just like, you're just asking for trouble here. And it would always bug me as a dad. So the story in Charlotte is one I think that makes me think about my daughters growing up, going on their own, and just like my heart breaks for them, and just saying, you need to be very situationally aware. You just can't assume that everything's going to be normal and okay just because it's supposed to be. It's just not. So we have to compensate for that. But anyway, used to go to Annunciation. T-Storm, when did you leave Annunciation? We left in the COVID pandemic. When they locked the doors for the lockdown, we left parishes. We went to Regina Caeli after that. We loved Annunciation. We loved Father Felix there. We loved the people. It's the oldest church in Houston. It's 150 years old. It's gorgeous. It's got a beautiful high altar, but but we couldn't do it anymore. And honestly, I just don't miss having to go downtown and park a 15-passenger van in the insanity that is downtown Houston, especially when there's Astros ball games going on. There's always craziness. There's always some Yahoo with a bullhorn, out there screaming about whore Babylon this or whatever. And then there's, the homeless people who get aggressive and they want to, assault you if you don't give them $1 when they ask for it. My heart kind of breaks for them too, because like, who carries cash anymore? In a cashless society, nobody has cash, and you're like, can I Venmo you some money? Like, yeah, sure. They pull out their cell phone, because they've all got cell phones, by the way. Like, let that sink in, so it's a crazy environment, and I'm just glad to not be down there anymore. Mm-hmm. It's such a different experience to be at a parish where like Jake, your parish is downtown Buffalo, but it doesn't feel anxious. It does, like, it's pretty chill at where you're located, sort of on the outskirts of downtown Buffalo. And it feels very, relaxed and chilled and safe. That's not like what Annunciation was. It was in the heart of the crazy. So it was just anxious ridden all the time. Whereas the parish we're at now, it's on 40 acres. Mm-hmm. It's surrounded by neighborhoods that are loud and obnoxious, but it's peaceful. Like, our kids run around, and it's just, we love it. It feels less stressful when you have that environment. So I don't miss downtown.
Yeah. It's still, there's still people walking around some days where I'm like, there's people hanging around because it's downtown, because, they're hoping they can come panhandle and stuff. We've had some issues. Sure. It's still not great. It's more peaceful than other parts of downtown would be, or some of the other neighborhoods in Buffalo, but, right. Still not ideal. Cigar Mode, pepperoni definitionally is salami. Like, if you go to Italy, they won't have pepperoni. Like, it's a form of salami. It's a similar sausage. So it has nothing. It has nothing to do with bologna and steak. Pepperoni is a form of salami.
You can just ask for pepperoni; they'll give it to you.
Yeah, they will.
They love tourists. They love tourists, like, and tourist money.
Pepperoni as a name, like, it's not. There's nothing called that in Italy. It would be something else.
T-Storm says, I loved Annunciation, but you are right. If you had young children and you wanted to hang out with one of the other families, there was a good chance they were on the exact opposite side of Houston. It made things difficult. Yeah, it does make things difficult. Now, they do have a parking garage now. They didn't have that when I was there. The problem, though, is they have to work with the city. It had to be a collaboration, a partnership with the city. And then there was there's a Catholic school literally on the same block right next door. And they had to partner with them too. And let's just say that Catholic school has, very liberalist religious community of women who run the place. Let's just say it that way. And so it wasn't a great partnership. And then they sell the parking out to people coming to the Astros games. So it's like you were struggling to get parking and you're just trying to go to church in your own parking lot. And it's such a nightmare. And now they're selling the parking garage out too. So it's like, what's the point? All it is it gives the Astros and the city more opportunity to make money on parking. But they claim it's the benefit of the church. But is it? I don't know. And it's just a nightmare to get in and out of. This Catholic school was definitely not a school that anybody who attended Annunciation would send their children. And that is all I'm going to say. What's crazy about that school is that it is a very expensive school. Families spend a ton of money in tuition every year to send their kids to that school. And then they drive from all over Metro Houston, which is a massive geography. I mean, it takes hours to get across Houston metro area, from one suburban area down to another. Literally, it can take an hour and a half, 2 hours. It's that far. And they come from all the suburban outskirt areas to drive downtown 5 days a week to drop their kids, their daughters, it's a girls' school, off at a Catholic school run by very liberal women. And the schoolgirls are wearing short skirts. And they pay for this? They give you money for this kind of ill treatment? I mean, that's bizarre to me. It's absolutely bizarre. Explain that to me. Why would we give $1 to people who are going to corrupt our children and then dress them scandalously? I don't know, but rich people do it all the time. Instead, give your money to the Stational Cross Catholic Media Network. I guarantee we'd use your money more wisely. And then you should homeschool your kids. It'd be better. The Catholic school was definitely, not a good school. James, 16897, good morning to you. It's like trying to find Swiss cheese in Europe. It isn't called that. Are you kidding me? All cheese is Swiss. The Swiss do know how to make some good cheese. Okay. It's good stuff. James, good morning to you.
Napoleon Solo says, once you have pizza in Naples, you'll never leave.
That's not true.
Sick 'em, Joe.
There's no way that's true. Italians have no idea how to make a pizza.
That has to go on the next bingo card.
It is scandalous what they call pizza there. It's horrible. Seriously. No idea what they're doing. No idea what they're doing.
As usual, the Americans take a foreign cuisine and make it good. Mm-hmm. That's what Americans always do.
I agree with you in this case. I don't want to say that out loud, but I do agree with you 100%. Italians, as Holy Roman Emperor, I will require Chicago pizzerias to send missionaries in and throughout Italy to teach them how to properly make a pizza pie, because they have no clue what they're doing. Female KC Royals fan from Nebraska says, my only Catholic cousin on my mom's side went to a Catholic school that he drove out about an hour or two. He could have gone to the local public school, but his mom and his dad sent him to the Catholic school. Well, maybe in that case, the Catholic school was a decent school, and the public school options were horrible. I mean, public school options tend to be very horrible. So I don't know what the circumstances are, but maybe it was worth it in that case. I don't know. I can't say. But all I'm saying is, in this particular instance downtown, between the liberal theology and ideology of the religious community that runs the place, think sister pantsuit, and coupled with bad decision making, like on their outfits, like why are young women wearing short skirts? Like, it's immodest. What are we doing? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And why would any parent be okay with that? It just seems bizarre to me. And we're going to pay top dollar for that too. And we're going to be downtown, in and around all of the insanity that's down there. Like, wow, like this is bizarre thinking to me. Like, I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense. It's like I'm the kind of guy who doesn't go to it. Like, if I'm driving one way on a road and I need to go to a gas station, I don't go to a gas station on the opposite side of the road.
No, of course not.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
No, why would you?
It makes no sense to me.
Why would you forcibly make yourself make a left turn, like onto a wide road? Never.
Exactly. Absolutely why would you do this? Makes no sense. Like, you're obviously going to keep going and wait for a gas station on your side of the road. And then you can get off and get back on, as efficiently as possible. Like, why would you cross a road for no good reason? It's like the same thing. Mm-hmm. Like, who's in charge here? Who's making the decisions?
You got to look, like, when it's on a corner, you got to make sure that, you're going the correct direction. Are you going to be able to take a right turn into the lane going straight, or is it going to be the traffic's going to force you to take a right turn into the turning lane, and then you're no better off, There's all these things to keep in mind.
It's complicated. You think you're just stopping to get gas. So it's way more complicated than that.
You actually have to plan in advance and not just like do one thing after another.
There's things that have to be, there's issues to consider. Christine says, my best pizza was in Rome. Naples is famous for pizza, but not my fave. My mom's homemade was like nothing else. Oh, may God rest her soul. Mom's pizza. Praise be to God. Our archdiocese must crack down on dress code. The teachers are wearing sloppy, faded jeans, stretch shorts, tattoos. I pick up the kids after school and don't like the example they set. Yeah, it's an issue. Like, it just seems hypocritical to me for a Catholic school to have a modest dress code. Like, what are we talking about? Like, that literally makes no sense to me. I don't understand what we're doing. I mean, it seems like a reasonable expectation to have a Catholic school have a decent, modest dress code. It doesn't have to be like, Amish, I wouldn't go that far, although that might be nice, actually. But, at the same time, at least be modest at a minimum, I would say. Gregory says, I lived in Chicago, and Chicago pizza is not deep dish. It is tavern style, thin crust. I never, ever heard of a deep dish. No, there's no way, Gregory, that's true. Come on now. There's no possibility that's true.
I would go for the Italian beef anyway. So.
Oh, boy. Deep dish. It's the way to go. It's definitely the way to go. If you're going to have pizza, it needs to be a deep dish, and it needs to have a mountain of various types of protein all over it. You know, on top of the first layer of pizza cheese, and then of course you have your thick layer of protein, and then on top of that is yet another, the second layer of cheese, which is a different cheese than the first layer. It's got to be two different cheeses.
That's a casserole, not a pizza. We all know Buffalo has the perfect platonic ideal of pizza.
Pizza snobs, all of you. All right, God love you. We'll see you right back here tomorrow morning. Until then, God bless you.